Regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday. What is this, January 20? No,
No,
16th. To order. And our first order of business. Charles?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Charles. Okay, item 2, public forum. Anyone wishing to address the board in public forum?
We have to add two agendas.
We do, but let's get through that. I wanted to get through first and then we'll add things. Okay. Hearing none. Nobody on the screen. Okay, hearing none. Let's move on to item 3, and that's to approve minutes of January 4th, 2021, the regular meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Sorry, that would be the January 2nd, 2021, regular meeting, right?
It says 4.
It says 4, but it was a day after New Year's, right?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Yeah.
Have a second. Bless you.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any comments or questions?
Just one, I think it's the type of, but at the very end, there's something that's kind of out of place. It's a vote on the motion to rescind the vote on the ductwork at the Baldwin Middle School. And it's just sitting there on the very last page. I think it's a repeat of what appears elsewhere. in the
Those
minutes.
were.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
most likely. All right, Trace will clean that up. Great, thank you so much. All right, nothing further with the trade lines. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Selectwoman Roy? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, item 4, town engineer Janice Blasiak. 4.1 is to receive an update on the scrap program. And we have guests with us. You want to, Kristen Brown from Waste Zero, and who else? Pam Roach.
Pam Roach from Scrog,
Scrog.
and we also have from the Connecticut Deep, we have Luciano. And we also have Jennifer Weymouth. And I'm not sure if Chelsea's here. I think Luciano and Jennifer.
Good.
Yeah, and I think, so I just wanted to update you, we just wanted to update the board on the fact that, the food scrap program has been going on since last May. We had a few ups and downs in terms of, working with the independent haulers and all that. It's been a good steady increase in usage at the transfer station. And we just wanted to update you because one of the ideas is going forward is to try and make some of this permanent in some way or another. And talk about some potential options and hopefully come up with some plan going forward prior to the end of our grant wrapping up in May. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen Brown. I believe, Kristen, if you wanted to do any kind of slide presentation, you can share your screen.
Yeah. Can you see my screen okay, everyone?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my very messy screen. Sorry, let me just find my, here we go. So thanks for having me this morning. I am the consultant for DEEP. I'm working on the projects, all of the grant projects for this past year or so. You are part of a grant that was given out to about 15 communities. You can see your name, Guilford and Madison, next to each other down there. You launched last May. Other programs have launched various timeframes over the past year. And all programs are doing something slightly different, but in some ways slightly similar. So I'm going to give you a high-level overview of, why the grant program was available, and then also a little bit on your results and what we think your next steps action should be. So just as a high-level look, you probably are all aware, but really the entire country is facing a waste crisis. And the reason behind the waste crisis is just capacity shortage across the whole US. So the smaller blue bar chart represents the United States. About 35 years ago, when I first entered this business, there were about 6,000 landfills remaining. Today, there's only just over 1,000. Landfills close because they fill up. They're not allowed to continue expansion. And it's very, very difficult to site a new landfill. So as we run out of space, the cost goes up. In the Northeast, waste to energy is a prevalent form of disposal. You had at 1.6 incinerators in the state of Connecticut. You're down to 4. Your largest one, Mira, did close last year. And you have another large one in Bridgeport, which is, teetering because it's very, very old. So incinerators have a natural life of about 30 years before they start to incur a lot of extra cost. And all of the incinerators actually in the country, except for one, are over 33 years old. So we really do have a crisis at hand. It's very, very difficult to site a new incinerator or a landfill. And the primary reason is people don't want one in their hometown. So someone said in one of my meetings that all we know about our trash is that somebody picks it up and it goes away. But away is actually somebody else's home. So right now, a lot of the trash in Connecticut is being shipped out of state. Next year, this year, we're embarking on about 880,000 tons of waste will go out of state. It goes as far as Pennsylvania, it goes Ohio, West Virginia, some goes to South Carolina. So it goes a long distance. And it's really an unsustainable, problem because the bottom section of this slide sort of talks about 2 bills that New Hampshire is looking to move forward, and that is to limit or eliminate all out-of-state waste coming to their state. So as Connecticut's waste goes to Pennsylvania or Ohio, what happens in a few years, or if either one of those states decides not to take our trash? So Connecticut DEEP's sort of policy or mandate is to try to be self-sufficient. So figure out a way to manage the materials that we generate within our own borders. So the grants that you, along with those other communities, received, we're looking at ways to mitigate the overall tonnage of waste created and to find better solutions for those materials or to eliminate waste generation in the first place. The good news is most of what we do generate, if you dig into your can, you're going to find 75% of it is pretty easily divertible into other areas, into reuse like textiles or even some of your small products. When we do waste audits, which means we dig through the trash, we find things like toaster ovens that still are completely usable, but they're thrown away. So thinking differently about our trash is really, really important. Pulling out all of the food material, all of the yard material, this can all be moved into other streams and therefore we don't have to worry about disposing of that material. The target for the food for everybody who submitted a grant application was to figure out a way to best eliminate the food waste from their waste stream. And the reason that food waste is a target, it's about 22% of the waste stream, but it creates most of the emissions in the landfill. So as the food degrades, methane gas is given off, and that is a huge contributor to climate change. So it's disproportionately contributing to that methane as the food scraps degrade in the landfill. So pulling those out is super important. We have a anaerobic digestion system in Southington, Connecticut, where your material has gone. And what happens in anaerobic digestion is the food is separated. It goes through the digester, which is very similar to a human stomach. So the calories that you didn't eat because you didn't eat that food are turned into electricity in the case of quantum. So that's a really wonderful way to take a material that was landfilled, that was causing emissions, and turn it into a positive, both for the environment and actually for local jobs in the state. Madison and Guilford sort of did this pilot, even though you applied separately, we did it together, both communities, and we piloted in the subscription area as well as at the transfer station, which affects all of the residents. what I wanted to look at is what is the cost of waste management to your residents. Right now, you really don't pay for that. In most cases, if they're not using a transfer station, they have a subscription hauler, so they're hiring that hauler. But together, combined, your residents are spending about $6.9 million on collection and disposal fees through those private haulers. And if you added food scrap collection, which to that, it would bring that total number up to, about $12 million a year. So it's a very expensive proposition to really continue the current system as is. It might be the direction that you choose to go, but we wanted to be able to investigate and see if there are other options, other ways to save cost and also reduce waste within the towns. So just quickly, unit-based pricing was the other portion of the pilot that the grant that you applied for. Again, all communities on the grant that receive grants applied for both a program that would look at evaluating unit-based pricing as well as food scraps. The reason is because unit-based pricing is a way of completely shifting the waste stream. And the good news is it works at a transfer station. It also works in subscription hauler communities. So what we're looking at here is in 1990, the average person generated about 900 pounds per capita. In 2020, in Connecticut and really across most of the country, we generated about 740 pounds per capita. So since 1990, really when I entered this arena, we've added, we've increased our bottle bill. We've added all different types of other waste reduction. We've added single stream recycling, collection at the curb, a lot of convenience for residents, and we've managed to get our waste down, but not really down far enough. There are communities in Connecticut, there are 550 communities from New York north that have a two-tiered rate structure, which means that part of the waste is, cost of waste is covered in an actual fee. So in the case of you all, it would be a hauler fee in a subscription area. And then part of it is also covered in a variable fee or a pay-as-you-go portion, which could mean that you purchase a special bag for each, each sort of unit of measure. So each 13-gallon trash bag, for instance, might cost $1 because that's covering, similar to a prepaid phone or your electric bill, it's covering the amount that you generated. So these two-tiered systems we find tend to decrease waste by an average of about 44%. So it makes people think differently about what they're putting in their garbage. Their recycling is still the same. You can put any of those recyclable materials into a recycling container without an additional fee. But unit-based pricing makes us think about everything that we're throwing away each week. When you couple unit-based pricing with some sort of curbside food scrap reduction option, you can get your waste down to more like 225 pounds per capita. So when we think long-term about shipping waste out of state or, managing our waste within the borders, the less we generate, the easier it is to tackle that challenge. So the goal of the pilots was to look at what residents thought and how they behaved in a system that had both food scrap diversion option and unit-based pricing option. Just a really quick look here. The unit-based pricing it's a very fun system. I've worked with communities doing unit-based pricing for over 35 years. The cool thing about it is when you provide people with some unit of measure, the waste drops immediately. So you can see the first example, Waterville, Maine, trash decreases the month that you start the program. The next one is Dartmouth, Massachusetts, a community I worked with years ago. You can see trash went down immediately, and then it went down again because they actually adopted the program when it was not a full fiscal year. So trash generation changes completely because people are thinking differently about what they throw away. I'm going to pass this around for everyone afterwards so you can kind of digest it. So I want to go quickly here. So what does the current system look like? You've got a transfer station where residents are paying as they go, very similar to this concept of unit-based pricing. You're paying by weight. You've got, of course, your place to bring your leaves and your brush, but primarily residents are using subscription haulers. What we learned is they're 3 primary haulers, and they're all charging a little bit under a $500 a year fee. Blue Earth, which is an option for food scrap diversion, costs about $360 annually. So it's a pretty expensive to dispose of waste when you add those two, if you're going to add in the food scrap collection. The negatives with your system, and there are pros and cons to everything. The negatives are you have a lot of vehicles on the road emitting with emissions. You have also a lot of road traffic and wear and tear on your road. And I'm sure some of you live on roads where 2 or 3 different haulers are coming down the street at any given day of the week. You don't really have any cost control of this system as the cost of disposal continues to rise and more material is shipped out of state. Your haulers will just raise the price to the residents. So there's not a lot of control. There's no real environmental control because you have no control over where your hauler is going. Additional food scrap collection is expensive, and it also adds another truck to the road. And then another system is your haulers are sometimes a bit difficult to work with when it comes to the, registering and being cooperative with the town of Guilford. The pros to the system are customers have a choice. They can choose who they want. And also it's limited town involvement, so there's limited administrative costs. So there's pros and cons to the current system. What we did in the pilot, and I don't know if any of you are in the pilot area, but we did a mailing to all the residents in both towns. About 5% of the residents were interested. So we narrowed down some routes. We worked with Johns and Schweitzer initially. They gave us 3 days a week each. It was about actually a little over 700 homes. And that was a little bit chaotic. So we ended up moving the pilot to just one hauler. Schweitzer, they were the most cooperative, and we went down to 1 day a week with 250 homes. Each home was given a kit where they had 2 orange trash bags and 1 green trash bag for each week to carry them through April. The idea was to try and take the challenge, try to reduce their trash, their waste generation down to about 2 13-gallon trash bags a week, and their food scraps, place all their food scraps in the green food bag. Schweitzer collected both together in the same cart. It goes up to Country Disposal in Wallingford, where it's dumped out on the floor, and you can see your trash being dumped out on the floor there in the bottom corner. Most people are doing the program properly. Some people are still using black and white trash bags. In this sort of co-collection system that we were piloting, it's better to use the designated trash bags because they're a certain gauge so that they don't crush as the material is compacted in the truck. We get more breakage with the black and white bags, but you can see many residents participating in the program. On the left-hand side, the other side, you can see a conveyor belt where the material goes across, and we have pickers that pick out the green bags so that they can be tested and sent for digestion. Your pilot, again, was a little rocky because we had to narrow it down and get down to that 250 approximate number of households. We've only been able to capture a few sort of data points. But the good news is, well, there's 2 really good pieces of news, I think, out of your pilot so far, and that is that the material we're collecting from residents is very, very clean. People understand what goes in the green bag, and you would be surprised because some of our pilots do not have such clean material. So the material is nice and clean, and it appears you're on the weeks that we're able to capture good data, you're getting a pretty good food capture rate. And what food capture rate looks at is if you assume 22% of the material that comes in on any given week is the available food scraps collected, you're collecting over 50% of the food scraps on a regular basis, which is also a really good sign. These are just random data points, so it doesn't necessarily make a trend. What we're finding from the other communities also will help us with future decisions that we make. The other lessons we learned is it's difficult, sometimes to work with private haulers if you don't have a structured format in place. We've learned we have limited infrastructure for sorting this material. But we do have a high interest from residents, and those residents that are participating are doing a really good job. So what we're recommending as next steps is you have a transfer station advisory committee, and you're meeting again on February 5th. So ideally, we'd love to task that committee with reviewing not just what's happening at the transfer station, as far as the food scrap collection there goes, but also looking at the subscription hauler system to see if we can come up with either a unified system or perhaps a franchise system where we've divided up the areas of either one town or both towns, or a system which might be a voluntary system, but a recommended hauler that can haul both the food and the waste. So looking at a few different ways to go forward, but we feel like working with an advisory committee would be the best next steps. Also think that it's important to put out an RFP or an RFQ to look at what haulers might be able to offer in the way of infrastructure and in the way of a collection system. And then ideally, we'd love to come back with some ideas from the committee, April to May time frame, to see if we can get some direction as to what next steps might be from there. So any questions?
Kristen, thank you very much for the presentation, and we appreciate all the work you've been doing throughout the past year or so that we've been working on the grant itself. And while we did have some disappointing turnout with losing the hauler in Guilford, a couple of things of note. There are 7 large garbage containers at the waste transfer station, which are being used regularly by residents in the community, particularly those of us who started on this program and are no longer able to have it picked up for us by our haulers. And I think I saw a bill of lading from Blue Earth or whoever was picking this stuff up for December. Over 4,000 pounds of food waste scraps were picked up at the waste transfer station over in the month of December. So people are taking to it. One of the challenges I think here is that we've identified, and that's what pilots are good for, is to understand what works and what doesn't work. The model with a community that is largely private hauler based creates a different requirement for a strategy moving forward. Our estimates are 60 to 65 to 70% of residents in the community utilize private haulers. And Kristen mentioned the challenge with haulers, which is, even though the state has designated that all haulers have to register with every community in which they do business, it doesn't seem to make an awful lot of sense. We don't have any teeth, we don't have any enforcement power. We can't even get them to register and provide the reports they're supposed to provide to us that we can submit to DEP. So there's a strategy with how we deal with those folks. I just had a couple of questions, Kristen. Unit-based pricing, in its essence, is that an effort to shift the cost of waste disposal to those who are higher producers?
Yeah, so the idea behind unit-based pricing especially in a subscription community, is that there would be a base fee for service, and then those who generate less pay less, those who generate more pay more. Overall, the total system will probably end up costing everyone less if it's designed correctly. But it does allow, if you're a single person, if you're an older person and you live alone, or if you're just a great recycler and hardly putting out anything, you're paying for the service and the convenience of the truck coming by your home, but your disposal cost is based on what you generate. So as disposal costs rise more quickly than inflation and everything else, which is what's projected, you kind of have control of your own cost instead of the typical model, which gives you one flat fee and then basically just amortizes all waste over that fee. So if your neighbor throws away more, you're always paying more.
The unit-based pricing with the private hauler market, how does that impact cost for someone you just talked about? Because today it's a subscription base. I think I'm $126 per quarter with my hauler. If I go to unit-based pricing, what does that do to that model, and what have you seen it do to models like that?
Yeah, so there are a lot of unit-based pricing subscription models in Pennsylvania. So I would say you'd be down to more like 250 or 300 for your base fee. But then you'd pay as you go for each bag that you generate each week. And it would end up costing less if you are taking advantage of the recycling system, and especially if there's a food scrap option, as part of this, and you're taking advantage of that, because the cost to dispose of the food scraps within the state is significantly lower than to dispose of the waste. So
Great,
it would be less for, really, it would probably be less for everyone. What we find is you just start thinking differently about your trash. You're less likely to throw away your toaster oven or, a bag of old clothes that you may have the intention of dropping it off at the Goodwill, but, just time gets away from you and eventually you just toss it in the can. Well, you wouldn't do that if you were paying for as you go, you'd take a minute and stop at the Goodwill. So people just start to change their habits. It's not a big change, but it's long-term a cost-effective change.
Questions, John?
It seems that one of the goals uh, is to get people not to be driving to the transfer station with their own waste. Is that kind of like one of the long-term goals of a program like this? Because you had commented about one of the advantages was you would cut down on traffic on the roads and cars.
No, that's multiple haulers servicing the same street in a week.
Okay.
So that, there's no intention to try and discourage
The
use.
question I had in my mind was, if we go away from the weight at the transfer station to per bag.
We may, I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
one of the
so
options.
one of the options is to consider unit-based pricing, so people, buy the bag and then they dispose of the bag at the transfer station if they wish, or also potentially combine with haulers.
Yeah, other question,
Separate.
even in the trial period, is my understanding that commercial enterprises are not included in any of this conversation?
Right now, we are dealing with residential pickup in our program, both with the haulers we're working with and at the transfer station. It's primarily, residents who utilize the
I
transfer. station.
understand that with the program and developing
Mhm.
that part of it, it just in the food waste part particular, it seems strange to me that we wouldn't be.
Well, there is an effort, so there is a law, and I don't know it too well, but there is a law that if you're a high producer of food scraps and you're within a certain distance to an existing facility like Quantum, that you are required to recycle your food scraps. Quantum, I think, is outside our travel range for any of our local restaurants or supermarkets to be required to recycle food scraps. However, there is an effort working with the Sustainable Guilford Task Force, and I know even our transfer station committee has an interest of trying to really reach out to the local vendors, the local restaurants and grocery stores to encourage food scrap recycling. There's also been past grants working with the school systems at times to recycle food from school systems. So there are different efforts trying to reach out to those different groups, but this particular one was kind of focused on residential waste.
And this pilot, I think one of the other goals from all of these pilots in the state is to help increase infrastructure. So for instance, if a program like this would take off in Guilford with a local hauler, say, we could also, in a pretty short period of time, demonstrate that there's enough feedstock to warrant, building a local compost facility. So then it becomes less cost prohibitive for restaurants and schools and other users to ship all the way to Southington, which is where currently the primary facility is in the state. The idea of smaller, more regional compost locations is another part of the reason for this grant, is to just stimulate the change and help all those entrepreneurs out there to start thinking about how they can make this more efficient.
Other questions? All right, so the ask is that the board take action to direct the Waste Transfer Advisory Committee to look at the options available, work with Janice, work with DEP, work with Waste Zero, work with Scrug to get to that point. That's the ask.
Yeah, we're considering that for your next meeting in February. We have a meeting set up between both Madison and Guilford internally to discuss, because we do share the transfer station with them, and then to see also what their thinking is on, doing the hauler program in their town as well. So we hope to have kind of an understanding of where they're at, and then hopefully bring it back to you on February 5th, I think is your next meeting, to see if there's a desire to task our standing committee, which currently only has oversight of the transfer station operations to a point, advisory to this board, to see if we want to task them with kind of exploring this further to really vet, opportunities to move some program forward.
And preliminary conversations suggest that they're more than willing to do
Yes,
that.
yeah, yeah.
To take on the task.
That was gonna be my question.
Yeah.
Does Madison preclude us from doing something?
No,
No.
interestingly enough, the way the agreement was originally written, it is the Guilford Board of Selectmen is responsible for the management of the waste transfer station.
Right.
So
And then-
let their cooperation.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
we
exactly.
we are in partners with. them,
Right,
but,
right.
No,
getting
I,
that- getting their-
And then the hauler thing is, it could be separate, it can be combined. Those are kind of some of the things we're going to talk about at our meeting later this week.
to Matt's point, the waste thing at the transfer station, I was surprised at how well it's working, because I talked to the people down there. I compost at home, so most of that kind of stuff is done, but it's amazing how much food scraps there are that you can't compost.
Right.
And it's really worked well. There's no odor, there's no animal problems. People are using it. If anything, the bins are full.
Yes. Yeah, the usage has doubled since like late summer, like September timeframe. We were getting about 2,000 pounds
You know,
per
yeah, it's
month.
working. I mean,
And now we're up to over 4,000
no
pounds.
nuisance factor.
Right. No, it hasn't been a problem at all. Right.
But like everything everything else in this world, it has the law of unintended. With the food scrap stuff, where do you keep them in your house? We have a small little bucket that's on the countertop, which, is 6 by 6 by 6 or whatever it is, but that gets filled up relatively quickly. And they haven't come up with a 3-bin system for recycling garbage and then food waste that also keeps the odors down, because it's the odors. So there are challenges there, but they're not insurmountable. I was advised by Pam Roach that go to Pages, get a 5-gallon bucket with a lid on it. Keep it in your garage, keep it in your shed or your basement, and you only have to open it up every once in a while to fill it. So.
Empty cat litter buckets.
Yep.
Recycling,
those work,
recycling.
yeah.
Well, you
If
got-
I just, not to put the public service announcement in, but it's a good job that happens at the transfer station, but they do a great job. And just because you have a hauler doesn't mean you can't still use it. Batteries,
Oh, yeah.
CFLs, if you still have one of those in your basement socket. I mean, you can have a bunch of little clean and storable buckets in your garage or wherever you can keep some things. And bring them in. If you have, she kept saying a toaster oven, they have a place for that sort of thing. Electronics, they got the big giant truck at the bottom, and they're super helpful when you get there. So thanks for everybody who does all that, to keep that thing working so well. But just because you have a hauler doesn't mean you can't recycle some of this stuff easily.
So do you need a motion, or where are we?
No, I don't think so at this point. We're just gonna add it to the agenda, and then we'll take a motion at that point. Right? Okay, so. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone, for your presentation and willingness to continue to try to get us to where we need to get to. So thank you. It's not easy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, Janice, 5.2, discuss and take possible action on structural and geotechnical engineering services for the relocation of Grass Island Shack. Everybody saw the drone pictures this weekend.
Impressive.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So,
Better hurry up.
yeah. Well, I just want to say, especially coming off this weekend, I mean, the peninsula is disappearing. I mean, it's something that is happening. I don't think we've seen it disappear so much and since I've lived here almost 30 years. So what's happening there, I don't know. Is it going to continue? Likely. How bad is it going to get? I don't know. So I just want to make that clear. There's, there's a caveat. There's, we certainly saw extreme high tides this weekend with a storm. So Though that's an anomaly, but as you know, on a day-to-day basis now, the front of that shack is in the water at high tide. So the regular high tide is now under the shack. And we don't know how deep those pilings go. I was able to look through a lot of history of the, permits that were done for Grass Island. There was an attempt, there used to be a wooden bulkhead in front of the shack. It looks like in the early 90s, the town attempted to try and replace it if it was damaged by a storm. There was an application for a permit, but I never saw a permit, and clearly no work was done. So it's my best guess, that it was not a project that Deep thought was worthwhile pursuing at the time or would permit. Subsequent to that application, within another couple of years, there was an application to replace pilings for the shack. And as far as I can determine, the shack was kept in its current location, and it was just an effort to replace the pilings in that location. I found a bill for how much it cost at the time, but unfortunately I didn't find anything that indicates how deep these pilings go. And that's really my concern right now, is if we want to, retain the structure, we're not calling it a structure, we're calling it a monument for a few reasons. If we want to retain this for the community and for its visual impact on our landscape, we want to make sure it's in a position where it's as high as it can be, as well as with pilings that can withstand some of the forces we witnessed this weekend. But will it always be there? I don't know. And how much time this is gonna buy, I honestly don't know. So I did go forward, and this is all with the caveat, I'm still awaiting results from Deep on the natural diversity database response review that they have to do for this project. I've reached out to Deep prior to proceeding with anything to see what we can do. Can we bring in sand? Can we move the structure? Do we need permits from them? All these questions were asked. Both Deep as well as one of our coastal engineers we're working with, Race, on another project. Both were very anti bringing in material because they felt it was a fool's game, that it wasn't going to last. And then it also would have some permitting implications too to do that. They felt the best at the time, which was the summer when I reached out, was to relocate it back to what appeared to be higher ground. And it is slightly higher. Waiting on the natural diversity database response, I got a response from them that basically said, we need further study. We believe there's endangered plants that could exist in the area, and you need to study that. So I hired Rich Snarsky, who is an environmental scientist, soil scientist, who has been studying this yellow thistle plant that they're concerned with, and he knows where it is. It's on the other side of the river, up in the marsh of the East River. He's been out a few times to check on it, so he was the perfect person to hire to go look at Grass Island. He did not find evidence of the yellow thistle, but he did, find that there are some standard grasses and things like that. So I don't know if Deep's going to have any concerns with us relocating it. The idea I have was originally to move it back 90 feet when we first went out there this summer. Looking at everything that's happening, I think we really just want to slide it back onto new pilings just behind where it sits now, which will push us back between 30 and 45 feet altogether. So basically the front of the building will be more where the back of the building is, and it'll be on slightly higher ground. It'll make for construction of the new pilings much easier if we decide to move forward with the project, because the building is out of the way. You put in the new pilings and you slide it onto the new foundation. So what I have before you here is approximately $15,000 of cost to do some preliminary geotechnical investigation with getting a rig out there to do a boring to see what kind of materials we're dealing with below the surface, as well as a proposal from our structural engineer, who is our on-call engineer, Michael Horton Associates, for about $2,200 to do the design, the structural design for the pilings and any other structural changes we want to make to the building to put it on those pilings. And then the estimate was about $4,000 to $5,000 for a barge to get the geotechnical equipment out there to do the actual boring and analysis. not knowing where the costs are gonna go with this yet. You know, there's an upfront cost right now of about $15,000. And I wouldn't expend any monies until we get that natural diversity database response, because if that's a no-go, then there's nothing. Then we may be looking at maybe trying to do something in place, but you know, that's to be determined. If we do get the natural diversity database all clear, the process that we've worked out with DEEP would be that we would do a coastal area management permit only. They're treating this as a derelict structure, and under the general permit, we can remove that derelict structure from where it sits within their jurisdiction area to higher ground, which is out of their jurisdiction area, and therefore would fall under the coastal area management approval through our planning and zoning commission.
More than you wanted to
Still
know.
a derelict structure, it's just high enough.
Yes. Yeah, we're calling it a monument, we're calling it, you know, an iconic thing. I guess when they rebuilt it, it was interesting, when it was rebuilt in the early to mid, you know, it was 2015 or so. A local architect did full rent drawings of it, so he was nice to reach out and get them to me. But it was treated, you know, there's no building permit in play here because we're not calling it a building, you know, we're not gonna regulate it as a building, we're calling it a monument and just relocating the monument to where we think it might be a little safer and maybe last a little longer, but to be determined.
I'm a little hesitant to ask this question, but I think we got it. Where do we stand historic?
So we do have a letter from the Preservation Alliance that identified the desire on their part to save it. I've taken the position with DEEP calling it a derelict structure as long as it doesn't have historical significance, and the fact that it was pretty much entirely rebuilt. And so it has a historical context for our community, but the structure itself has been almost entirely rebuilt. I think there's a few remaining boards left from the original structure. And it's changed in its appearance because it has a larger opening. It actually used to be a residence, which it clearly no longer has any remnants of looking like a residence at this point. It looks more like an open shed and porch around it. So we've taken the position with DEEP that it is not a historic structure because of the fact that it's moved around a few times and really isn't retaining its original components as being a structure.
Well, I can appreciate the Preservation Alliance perspective. I mean, they're not really a town agency compared to the historic.
Well, the historic district commission would weigh in on this, but.
Outside the district, yeah, it's outside.
It is outside the district.
Yeah. Yeah, the district stays within the town center area.
Goes down to about Whitfield.
Yeah, it goes down Whitfield to a point.
To the Stonehouse, right?
The Stone House, yeah, just north of the bridge, I believe, is where their district ends.
I'll be happy to reach out to Joel Helander to see if
Well, I just,
Well, that's-
also start the communication so that, we don't have any surprises about it.
well, the reality is we would be preserving a historic building because we're not.
Monument.
Right, well,
Monument,
we're,
excuse me.
yeah, so I'm being careful because there's a caveat in the general permit that if it is a historic structure, then it's not subject to the general permit from DEEP. So we're trying to play, walk the line on both sides of it.
And that's exactly why I asked the question. I mean, you know it's going to become problematic, so let's just, go after it and be.
Well, I don't think it's problematic from,
Potentially.
I think the only problem is if we do deem it historic structure, then we may not be able to use the general permit for relocating it and send us
That's
into
the
some.
point. It's just, find out up front, like bring everybody in so that we don't have any surprises.
The thing is, all that really makes sense. I mean, it doesn't have any function as a building.
No.
Structure. It's a visual cue. And it's something people are just sort of used to, and it's representative of the town. And I don't think moving it back out of the water. But you're right, that the point that you'd rather find out earlier rather than later, but I'd be
Yeah.
shocked
I
if
mean,
anybody.
we're learning that lesson in
First-
Northcote.
Yeah.
That's a moderate
We ha-
different.
Yeah, so I mean,
Spot.
I believe the letter that the that was sent by the Guilford Preservation Alliance also had some documentation from Joel in terms of the, the kind of history of it. And I think they're in favor of moving it.
I will reach out to Joel and
Yeah.
Tracy
And Tracy.
Thomaselli, who pulled most of that research together.
Yeah.
So we'll do that in parallel. with-
Yeah, as we wait for the NDDB before we, but if all those are green lights, then the next step is to get some, engineering work done.
And there's no question, in my mind, that's $15,000 we have to spend,
Yeah.
to do what we can at this point and get some facts.
Yeah.
I mean, that soil just seems so movable, I can't even imagine piling deep enough, I guess they do things. They'd just be like dock pilings driven at 30.
Yeah, probably wood is your best option there because of the salts, water environment and anything that's metal. You'd end up it would be cost prohibitive to do anything metal that wouldn't corrode there, so you're likely gonna end up with wooden pilings. It's just how deep do we want it? Should we put them? I don't know if that was a consideration when they did it last time. They just hired a contractor to go out there and bang them in and be done with it. So how deep they are right now, it could be a foot below the surface, or they could be 10 feet below the surface. I don't know,
They almost look like are they wood now or concrete?
they're wood, and then there's some concrete that's been exposed, and I don't know if they put concrete in the hole and then drilled pilings, or I don't know how they approached it. The
Well, that's what.
concrete's a little odd to me, but
So we need motion.
Yeah, let's motion to approve
I'll move that.
50,000 for the project. As described in Genesis. Memo. Moved, second.
I'll second, of course.
Further comments or questions? Hearing none, let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
That motion carries. All right, 5.3, consider and take possible action on the disposal of large-scale printer at Town Hall South.
Yeah, the rates issue. Or did we just go to that?
So,
Yeah, it's a change of rates.
No, that was a part of the support for the 15,000.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
no problem. So we have a large scale printer that is by the engineering department in Town Hall South that really hasn't been in use since I've been there. We have another large scale scanner and printer in our lunchroom area that has been able to handle the tasks for the department and all the other land use offices over there. And it's pretty outdated at this point, this plotter. So I asked Karen, what do I have to do? So she reached out to all the departments, see if anybody needed it or wanted it. There was no response. So the next thing is for you to approve it to be auctioned. We'll try auctioning it. And if nobody wants it because it's so old, then we would recycle it.
is there a motion? Second. Any comments or questions? Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries unanimously. While you're still here, just that quick.
Okay.
We have two items to add to the agenda, the first of which is a request from the Guilford Land Conservation Trust. Can we add that as 5A?
Second.
Second, let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room? Aye. Also add item 10A, and that is a proposal from John Cunningham related to the town hall campus. Is there a motion to add it?
Make the motion.
Second. Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Sarah Williams is here on the line. Sarah, good morning. With Guilford Land Conservation Trust, the request is permission to use the parking area on River Street for the staging and access, as well as parking for the contractor constructing the new seawall at Olmsted. They will need to close it off to the public. Since the Board of Selectmen has jurisdiction over the parking areas in town, we would need to grant that permission. Please note that we require a certificate of insurance from the contractor to identify the town as an additional insurer. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Sarah, anything?
No, just that I wish we could tell you how long it's gonna take, but let's allow a year in our minds and maybe that will be enough.
Won't take that. Janice says no, won't take that. We're holding her to it.
Okay.
All right, let me try your minds, Selectwoman, Ruoff.
Aye.
Mobile computing?
Sorry.
Really mobile computing? Those in the room.
Computer, yes, sorry.
Aye. That motion.
Oh, gosh, sorry.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
Item 6, Finance Director, Mary Jane. 6.1, receive monthly report from the Finance Director.
Morning. So we are looking at revenues and expenditures halfway through the year through December 31st. I'll start with revenues. We're currently overall 60.9% collected as opposed to 65.7% collected this time last year. Keep in mind, we did up many of the budgets, which causes an anomaly in the collection rate. All of the revenues seem to be exactly where we expect them to be at this time. Some of the ones that are under 50 are small budgets. Park and Rec is under 50%, but come spring when we have beach passes and boat racks, we bring in a significant amount of revenue then. So the percentage will be low until we hit that time period. Any specific questions?
I'm good. Anyone?
Sounds like Janice has another
Just,
item for auction to bring in more money for the selectmen.
Tracy and Karen are bragging about that number. I know you usually point out how well finance does, but
Well, I did last month when we went over, so.
nothing on revenues.
No.
All right, keep going. Thanks.
Okay, similarly on expenditures, most of the departments are right where we would expect them to be at this time. As always, we have the departments that for timing purposes have a lot of the expenditures right up front in July, which causes their numbers to peak early on. Otherwise, there aren't any of the departments that we're really worried about. We're always watching fire. They're at 56%. They also have a number of encumbrances. So we will keep tracking them if it gets to be long.
Any questions on expenditures? No. Good, all right. Special fund warrants, weekly warrants. Capital. Good.
Do you have any questions?
Nothing from me. Sure you'll get some tonight from the Board of Finance on the capital.
Yeah, well, on the capital projects, we will have a couple that we're gonna close out this
Close
year,
out, that's
so.
right. Great. All right, medical benefits.
Medical, you can see in December, we've jumped up again. We're at expenditures of 1.3 million. That bumped us up over our average. We have on the stop loss caught up now. So when we pay January, we're only in January, so we have caught up paying all of our stop loss. On the catastrophic claims, we are up 3 members that have reached the $75,000 limit. We still have 2 that have gone over the $150,000. We are, the Board of Ed recently just filed their request for reimbursement of the $50,000 that you see there that is over the 150, and that will come back into stop loss. Revenue is fine. You can see that our surplus is dropping month to month as our claims go up, showing a surplus of $1 million. But again, that's due to change as we go through the rest of the year.
Yeah, and as people work through their deductibles as well.
Correct. That's the reason that the claims are lower the first half of the year. All the employees are paying their deductible. As their deductibles are satisfied, the town now kicks in the balance of that.
Okay, Anything else, Reggie, before we move on to 6.2? 6.2, discuss and take possible action on transfer from reserve for personnel to various salary accounts as recommended by the finance director. MJ.
So as you may remember, last year when we put together the 24 budget, the GEA contract finalized, but not soon enough, to affect the numbers that we went forward for the budget. So the majority of the items you see here are, for that purpose. There are some additional changes within departments, such as the finance department, where we have a change in employees, and such. But the majority of this is all GEA. The registrar's salary was approved by the Board of Finance a little late in the season, so that is in here as well. I'm looking for 163,436 to come from a reserve from personnel, which is where we have that budgeted. It is going to overdraw that line, but as you know, we reduced that number in our budget because of the amount that we have in reserve. So the difference will be made up from the reserve fund.
And what's the new total? 163, you said?
163,436. Should be on your board pack.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So with the reserve for personnel, we'll go down to 0 for the rest of this fiscal year then, is that it?
Correct. We would not anticipate tapping into reserve for personnel for the rest of the year.
Okay,
Any comments, questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any further comments or questions? Let me try your minds, Selectwoman Ruoff.
aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries.
Yeah, I'll just add that as we move forward this morning with the budgets, we will see it, although it wasn't official, it's not going to be official to the Board of Finance. Do it tonight, Mike, outside, but so it's not updated in any of our software, but I do have the adjusted numbers based on this motion to show as we move forward with the budgets today and tomorrow.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7, Public Works Director Dave Castro. Discuss and take possible action on purchasing 1,300 tons of the upcoming winter. I hope you had some for this morning.
We had a little bit left over. So the pricing, which they always wait until, I think they do that on purpose, but they wait till like the first week of December to get us pricing on the sand salt. But the price has gone up. It's $64.40 a ton for straight salt and $99.85 for the ice begon, which is the treated salt. So I'm estimating we're going to use around 900 tons this year of straight salt and 400 tons of treated salt, which would be 1,300 tons, which should give us a total of $97,900.
You've been using previous year's supply?
Yes.
And that anticipates roughly how many events?
I wish I could give you a number, but we get a lot of icing and ponding over the roads. And when you call in a truck for that, they come in, so for the 2 hours, they go through everywhere. And they may use a whole truck on that too. We're keeping a closer watch on our numbers, and it also depends on the storm. If it's colder, you're gonna use more salt. And also the timing of the storm. If it's at night, we're gonna use a lot less salt. There's less people on the road. So it's tough to put a number on there.
And we're sort of in discovery phase since we are now only using salt,
Right. Right.
So we're building the history here, right?
Right.
And also the other point I think you made last time we talked about this was the calibration of the dispensing of it.
Yes.
So that you mentioned something that you were tighten that down because there is a control that each vehicle can be set differently.
Right.
But this is sort of like a training exercise for you.
It is. They're trained every year. So last year was their first year. They were trained again this year. Have the instructor come every year. They calibrate the trucks every year as well. But just an example, that first storm that we got, that was 24 hours. We should have used 250 tons for the entire town for that time frame, but because they calibrated and they're responsible for salt usage, we only use 125 tons. So we're using a lot less than, and I called the state garage and they were around 200. And they have the same amount of miles of road that we do. So we're being really responsible with our salt usage. So I hope I don't have to use all 1,300.
So we stockpile.
Right.
How does that 97,900 compare to what you had budgeted?
Budgeted, I had 129,000.
So if we run out, we still have room.
Yes,
Materials will be available if we run out? or-
yes. Yes.
All right, other questions?
And this is stored here locally?
Yes, we store it in our salt shed here.
That's been up and out of harm's way with the high water?
Yes, yes. So far, so good.
Anything else? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any further comments or questions? Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff,
Aye.
those in the room?
Aye.
That motion carries.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And item 2, consider and take possible action on the brush and leaf facility fee changes.
So right now, currently, we charge commercial businesses the same that we charge a resident. And we had a retirement come up at our brush and leaf attendant. He retired recently, so I had to send my maintainers up there for the day to fill in when he was taking time off, and they went by the website, and the website says residents only. But we accept commercial material. So they turned him away. They turned one contractor away that day because they were going by the website, residents only, and they're actually go for resident. And the next day before noon, I had 15 contractors call me. What are you doing? Why aren't you taking material? Everybody, it's not a secret that other towns, they come here. The contractors come here to dump their material because we'll take it and we charge next to nothing for it. So with my commission, we came up with a price schedule to charge commercial accounts a different rate than a resident for the material. The leaves will still be no charge, which is fine by us because we're gonna be using it, so that's fine. But the wood chips and the brush, we should start charging the contractors for. I had a resident, I'm saying, show up with a contractor truck with a big box on the back and a trailer on the back, and he dumped it for $3. And I'm like, this is this is from my house. And there's 6 times this year already. What do you got? Like a 20 acre plot? So that's why we want to get into a different price structure for the contractors.
How about the out of town aspect? Is that something you could differentiate?
We can, and I've been keeping track of it. But when they come out of town, they'll say, well, I'm doing it for someone in town. So what we're gonna do is we're shifting gears. We're gonna get a cell phone up there. So, well, who did you do the work for? Let's call them right now. Did you do work there? And if not, then we're gonna turn them away. We had a guy show up from Madison and he said, I'm looking to dump brush. And I said, okay, well, where are you looking for? He said, I'm looking for the facility here. I said, well, where are you from? Madison. Well, they have a facility. Oh. Because they got turned away in Madison. He thought he was gonna, and I could see in the back of his truck. I said, well, we're not taking it, so can't come. So that's, we have to be vigilant on that.
And you said that the commission approved this rate?
Yes, my commission approved these rates.
How do they stack up with other communities that charge, differentiate between commercial and residential?
We went and we looked at Clinton, we looked at Madison, and one other town, I think it was North Branford, and we're right in the ballpark now with everybody else.
Dave, this is Sandy. I have a question. If a resident comes in a pickup truck, but they just own a pickup truck and they're coming with their own stuff, how will your guys know that they're not commercial? If, I mean, residents will still not have to pay anything if they use a pickup truck, is that correct?
Right, the residential fees are not changing at all. It's just commercial fees that are changing.
Okay. But you'll be able to differentiate between a commercial pickup truck and a residential pickup truck?
Yes.
Okay,
Most of the commercial trucks have some form of advertising. on
right,
them.
Right.
right,
Right.
right.
And
Well,
I'm
you
sure,
don't really have the chart with the new rates, the pickup truck is a pickup.
Well, this is only for, it's only commercial. All these prices are just for commercial. We didn't make a form for residential because we're just staying the same with the residents.
Okay, I get it. And, all right, so my only other question then is, the one that's, what was the price for a 6-wheel versus?
$3.
It was $3. They would come with big trucks, any size truck, and they would just dump it for $3 or $5.
And at the end of the season, or whenever periodically you bring a grinder in, you gotta go through this, right? I mean.
We do.
So it's not as if there's not some expense on our end.
Right. And
To process this stuff requires some overhead, and you're trying to cover some of that overhead, which we appreciate.
right. And so when we grind it, the grinder comes from Durham Middlefield. It's $15,000 for 40 hours. Plus, I have to send 2 guys up there, one with the loader, one with the excavator. Plus, we have to give Durham Middlefield 100 gallons of fuel every day.
This is gonna cover some of those costs.
Right. So we're,
Thanks for staying on it, Dave.
thank you. So we're trying to offset that.
And in fairness, Dave knows that I did get a couple of calls. He got 15, I got like 2 or 3 from on this very same issue.
Yeah.
So, all right. Is there a motion to approve the rates, the increase in the rates, create the commercial lawn care rates?
Sandy, you wanna grab one? Well, I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further, yes, but any further comments or questions? Hearing none, let me try your minds, Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
That motion carries. What's that?
Is that effective immediate?
Immediately.
Yeah. Well, when do you want to, we gotta post it on the website.
I'll post it on the website. We could do February 1st.
February 1st.
Next year's budget, though, we might want to get that number.
Okay. More money for you.
Exactly.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready? All right, item 8, Police Chief Chris Massey, Deputy Chief Sal Massey. 8.1, consider take possible action on the purchase and installation of remaining in-car camera systems from Safe Fleet, which is a sole source provider. Chief.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As you know, in 2022, we started switching our body worn camera program over to the Safe Fleet vendor. After much research into that area, and we've actually already installed 3 in-car systems as well into new vehicles that we purchased last year. We're looking to make the full leap to the new vendor earlier than anticipated. Capital budget for the next few years. I have budgeted that we were going to be purchasing the hardware to put these systems into our patrol vehicles. And it was going to be a much higher cost because we were going to be paying for the hardware a la carte, as well as the increased cloud service. The bundle pricing that Safe Fleet has provided us with has essentially removed the hardware cost, and we are just going to be paying the cloud service on an annual basis, which we were already anticipating doing. So this is going to be a pretty substantial savings on an annual basis, at least from our capital line, that we'll be able to reflect down the road. But the quote is for the 13 remaining frontline vehicles that were required to have in-car camera systems in. And it also includes them actually sending personnel to Guilford to install the systems in each of the vehicles. So, and it's for a total of $33,085.
13 cars, that's a lot. Okay.
That's the balance of our patrol vehicles.
Someone want to put that in form of motion?
Be happy to, and I'd make the motion to approve the.
Second.
Second.
Comments or questions? No, very nice. Let me try your minds.
One quick question, sorry. You mentioned that there's a cloud, presumably storage component. What's the security of that? I mean, obviously, there's gonna be sensitive stuff, like who's maintaining that and what assurances are they giving us that everything's secure?
So I know that was part of our initial discussion when we switched to them for body worn camera vendors. I don't have in front of me the exact cloud service. I know it is encrypted and it's a safe system that they have that we're uploading everything to.
And who can access that in your department? I mean, what's the process to get through that? Without giving away the sort of the secret there, but I mean, it's restricted is my real question.
Correct, it's very restricted, so the officers can see their own videos
Okay,
coming from that system. The shift supervisors can see all the officers, and lieutenants level can see down from them, and then the chief and the deputy chief can see everyone's videos. But it is access controlled to varying degrees. It's even in the cars, you have to log in. You can't just get into a car and just start pulling up video. You have to actually log into your username and password or PIN code and be able to get into the system to be able to start uploading videos as well.
And my assumptions are permission levels, people can't erase or.
Correct, yeah.
right.
Good. All right, let me try your minds, Selectwoman, Ruoff,
Aye.
those in the room?
Aye.
That motion carries. 8.2, discuss and take possible action on the disposition of property for the police department. Chief. Yes.
So following the property disposal policy for the town of Guilford, we do have 2 items that I am hoping to turn over to the North Haven Police Department for use on the regional SWAT team. And that is a sniper rifle as well as a night vision scope. I'm asking for an exemption to the normal policy where we would offer out those items to other town departments. Because
Oh, come on.
I don't feel that there's a I don't feel like there's a legitimate law enforcement use for those anywhere else in town.
I think the finance.
That'd be better than the raid on my desk.
So what we're doing is we had a member of our department who was on the SWAT team as the sniper team leader, who has since come off the team this past summer, decided to retire from the team and move on. So with that item is currently sitting in our armory. Certainly it's still within its acceptable service life, and we don't know when anyone else from Guilford would be selected for that role. So part of our discussion with the team is that we're going to be turning these items, we would turn these items over to the team, anticipating that these assets become team assets, and moving forward, the team and the funding that supports the team would be able to replenish these items down the road, because they are fairly expensive to purchase, and it's a cumbersome process to put one in service. So by having this turned over to the team, there's someone who can actively use it. And then if the time comes that we do end up having somebody that's selected for that specialized unit of the team, they would be getting assigned an asset from the team rather than us having to purchase one.
Got it.
So
Just quickly, night vision scope, you and I had a conversation. That's an interesting piece of equipment because that becomes eyes that on a situation, right?
yeah, certainly you want to, make sure that you can see in the dark. And that piece of equipment it's a valuable piece of equipment for the team to have, so that those particular positions are able to oversee an entire scene, an incident, and they're providing valuable information to the operators who may be preparing for entry, as well as for the team commander and any other support staff. So you want to make sure that they have really good equipment and they can see as well as possible.
Any further questions? Is there a motion to waive the traditional disposal process and move this to the SWAT team? This equipment,
So moved.
and a second. Any further comments or questions? Let me try your minds, Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
And motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Where do we end up with the new cruiser? Able to procure those?
I'm happy to provide you with a quick update on that. So over the Christmas holiday, got a communication from the vendor that suggested that they didn't have any cars like they had anticipated. They thought they had, there was a spreadsheet error. But then we actually reached out the other day because we had a cruiser involved in we've actually had two cruisers involved with collisions with trees that are gonna probably need replacement. So we reached back out to the vendor and said, hey, what does it look like just to get gas model cars? Because we're gonna need something because we can't be down that many cars. And we were actually told that there was a miscommunication, and they do have cars available, they're silver. So we're gonna have to just pay to get them painted, which
Gas or hybrid?
they're hybrid, and we'll make them work. So we're just gonna get them painted the appropriate color scheme. So we're working on getting all those upfitting quotes. And there's a potential, I let the first selectman know that we may be able to get ahead and potentially take advantage of, they do have some remaining stock as well, to get ahead for next year. So that'll be coming after we have some more discussions about that. And see what the status is for the cars, the two cars that were involved in collisions with trees. It is, yeah.
Stay on top of the communication.
Yeah.
Well, you
Yeah.
didn't ask
Get it
us
right
about
in
gray
this-
ones.
It was just a minor miscommunication there, but it's tough when you're doing everything over the phone or remotely, and they knew that we were looking for black vehicles. They did not have any black vehicles, but
They had gray ones, which it did gray.
Yeah.
What kind of sales guy was that?
Yeah.
Goodness.
hopefully it'll all work out. So.
And we're talking about potentially 6. Is that what we're?
So that was the projected total for 2 years. However, one of the vehicles was not scheduled to be replaced, so we have to see what the status of that is. We may have to order another one ahead to be able to replace that one and get it back in service, but.
These would be the first hybrids, right?
So we already have one hybrid that is the supervisor vehicle. We've had that since about 2020, I believe.
Working on it.
It's working out great.
Good.
And now with these vehicles, if we end up putting several out onto the road, it's gonna have hopefully a great impact on our bottom line for gas and other things down the road, maintenance, things like that, so.
Thanks for that question. Got a good answer.
See you
Thank
soon.
you. Item 9. On his very last day.
Budget presentation tomorrow.
That's true, you're gonna do the budget presentation, thank you for sticking around for that. Discuss to take possible action to award bid number 3-2324. Government Community Center upgrades for the elevator, fire alarm, and HVAC. Gentlemen.
So Todd will do most of the talking because he's really running the project and he's done a great job with it. But we had, 4 bids, I think, Todd? And it was quite a range from, about 402,000 up to about 782,000. So we met with the lower bidder, we met with the bidder and with the engineer for the project. They recommended the low bidder, Olympus. And also we run it by the standing building committee. They also are supportive of going with the low bidder, which is Olympus construction for the total is $402,000. And this is for replacing the fire alarm panel, upgrading the elevator, and also we had to add some HVAC to the project. Because it turned out that the elevator maintenance mechanical room has to be air conditioned, it's not. And now it needs to be, and also the GCTV room, now that you remember, there were some issues with. Some of their equipment up there, it was too hot, it was like burning out, so we're gonna add air conditioning to that room. I think one other room.
The one on the first floor, that's another electronic room.
Yeah.
Which would be good for the servers to have it a little cool.
So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Tom, or any questions about it, but we'd like to request the board of selectmen award it to Olympus Construction for the 402,000.
That's a new name that somebody used.
Sorry.
That's a new name. I don't know that name, Olympus.
Yeah, I don't think,
Use it for anything, but-
recall, I don't think we ever used them, but, we have a really good team with Solomon and Associates. And so Joe Solomon has worked with Olympus Construction.
Does that have to be run by Bill?
We did, we did, and they
They're familiar with
recommended.
them.
Yeah,
And, but just continue to be amazed sometimes in wide discrepancy in
Yeah.
pricing, you know, somebody just threw a number out there, you know, if it had.
Well, the other three are within shot
Reasonable,
close
yeah,
of each other.
great. All right, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion. This is great. Thanks.
Second,
Second.
second, MJ.
I just want to make sure the board is aware of the funding for this project because it is over budget. So we have $50,000 set aside from prior year in carried in force. We're using $160,000 to close out a 2014 14 and 15 bond authorizations for similar projects, including HVAC for the energy. And the balance of the project will be funded from fund balance committed to facility projects because some of the leftover money was actually placed in there for future facility costs.
Right.
Just to make sure during your motion that you know that that's where the funding is coming from.
Thank you. Comments or questions on that? Hearing none, let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously.
thank you. It's gonna be tough, but the elevator has to be down for what, like 4 to 5 weeks? We talked to Terry Buckley that whenever this happens, we're gonna think about any programs that are upstairs that people require elevator, we have to move them out there, keep them shifting around programs. Because if the elevator doesn't go to the top, we can't get people up there, so.
That's true. That's true. All right, so your swan song will be a budget.
It's gotta be a
presentation.
joke, right?
The elevator
No money?
won't go to the top. It was right there.
Yeah.
It was right there. I was waiting for it.
I don't want to alarm you, I'm not doing the fire alarm. My alarm clock didn't go off this morning. And I get up and all the snow, I said, oh no, I gotta clear the driveway, and I got a long drive, and in 20 minutes I gotta clear, and I rushed here to get here in time for this meeting, so. And now I got a dentist appointment. I gotta go.
Sitting here for an hour and a half.
Well, thank you, I'll be back tomorrow.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks.
Okay, item 10, town planner Ann Harchin, waiting. 10.1, receive report on the land use commissioner training. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning. As you may all recall, the state statute for land use commissioner training has gone into effect in this past year, which required all land use commissioners to take at least 4 hours of continuing ed. One of those hours needed to focus on affordable housing. Since I arrived in September, have sent 8 emails asking the commissioners to comply with the training requirement. They needed to be finished by midnight on December 31st. And if I could, I'll share my screen and show you what we have for compliance.
Okay. Okay, I'm sure Tracy will let you do that.
Okay.
Or I'm hoping she will.
Yep, here we go. Okay, so if you can see this on your screen, we have about 60% compliance from the Planning and Zoning Commission and 86% from the ZBA. There is a requirement that I report this training to you on an annual basis, and that's what I'm doing today. But there's no penalty for non-compliance except general shaming in public. So that's where we are.
Okay, can you should send that document along so we can share it with everybody. Appreciate that.
Okay, will do.
And then, what are we doing in terms of non-public shaming of those individuals who haven't taken the training yet?
These are all adults. I've sent 8 emails, which to me is an excessive number of emails to ask people to do something that they've committed to doing. So I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, but they're not
Attending a
attending a
meeting.
meeting, it's required.
It's required by the
Yeah,
state.
yeah.
So there is a provision in the charter that allows the Board of Selectmen to remove commission members for appropriate causes. So I'm not
think one
suggesting we
more
need to get there, but I think.
I think one more warning, but then rather than suspend, because, we all know how struggle finding volunteers. But maybe suspend their voting,
Good work.
just, until they
Well,
meet their requirement.
we also, I can't see it close enough. Are they regular members or alternate members?
A little bit of both.
Okay, because
But, maybe there's a way to do this in a more proactive way. Maybe do it at a meeting.
yeah, exactly.
Just have
The chairs.
either bring somebody in that runs one of these, APUs, whatever you wanna call them.
Yeah.
Just bring them in for a half hour at a joint meeting,
And the training is now available online, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it's not a hard task to complete. You can go on the Yukon Clear website and download the symposium they have done. It is 4 hours worth of time, so you have to have that time available. But given that you can download previous workshops, you could do your dishes, fold your laundry. There's all kinds of things you could do. You don't have to be glued to your screen the whole time.
Those for 7.5 and they're required to have 8.
They're required to have 4 hours.
Excuse me, I just got a text from Pat, Jim's wife, Jim Goodrich's wife, and she's watching the meeting right now. And she said he did complete it, and then she said he probably forgot to report it. So I'm just reporting what she just said to me.
Great.
So I can follow up with that, Ann, or you can, whichever you want, but I'm very
Well,
happy.
he can follow up with it because that's his job. So.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll mention it to him.
Thanks for that, Cindy. Appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
I think maybe a first step would be just a letter from over my signature
Yeah.
saying that.
Well, that in each party.
Absolutely. So we'll take care of it. I don't think we need to do any measure of public shaming. We can certainly get this done.
We gotta make it real.
Right.
Well, and when we consider a reappointment, perhaps we should ask about that, make sure.
Exactly.
You know how we have those wooden animals on the green, we could put some stocks up, and people could spend a little time there and that might
Sandy,
work.
we got a long meeting ahead of us.
I'm giving you a little levity. What the hell?
There you go.
Somebody had to pick up the.
Is it levity or downhill?
Sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item 11, Youth and Family Services Director Lynn Landry, discuss and take possible action on a request to use ARPA funds to cover the cost of another student presentation and community event by Chris Herron. Good morning, Lynn.
Good morning. So, in 2014, just a little bit of history, we had Chris Herron come during Day Week, which occurs usually around April or May, when all the purple flags show up. Chris Herron was a former Boston Celtic NBA player who was addicted to heroin and actually almost died, was brought back to life, luckily. And he went on to kick the habit and go around the country speaking about the dangers of substance abuse and addiction. When we brought him here in 2014, it was to a packed audience at the high school. It was during the day, and all 4 grades were in attendance. It was very impactful, very well received. And then at night, he does something a little bit different for the parents, probably a little bit more graphic in his presentation of what happened to him. But he's been doing this now for many years, very successful around the country. He is a bit on the high side, expensive, gives me a little bit of agita when I see these prices. So what we're asking for is to use mental health, ARPA funds under the mental health guidelines to bring him back to Guilford High School and to the community during Day Week in May. And his price is $5,500 for the student presentation and $8,500 for the community event. Now we can choose to do both, or we can choose to do just one. It'll be up to, how much money we can get to do this. These special things, we usually try to use some of our grant money and pull money together, but this is a little bit much. So we're asking to use some ARPA funds for that. So that's my ask.
Great, Lynn. Your ask does include both the student presentation and the community event, because you feel there's substantial value in both.
Correct. Like I said, when we had him here, now 10 years ago, it was quite impactful. We have a whole new crew, a whole new generation of kids to present to. It's still a very big problem. So we're hoping that we can do it.
Great.
In light of some of the pushback recently over the App Foundation project, I think this is great. And I just wanted to ask Lynn, we say community, the evening thing, we say community and then we also say parents. Is it open to everyone? And can we publicize it that way so it's available to everyone?
Yes, it'll be open to everyone. And that's what we did the last time as well. We just ask that parents come without their children, especially younger children. But it was successful the way we publicized it last time.
Great.
And it is appropriate for our fund?
Yeah, under the mental health guidelines. And by the way, we can use it for any purpose. Remember, we're under the $10 million rule.
Okay.
The
so
$10
make
million
sure we're
exception,
covered, okay.
any general governmental purpose. But this is part of the final rule. This would clearly qualify. So staying in the spirit of the original final rule.
Everything we've spent ARPA funds is within the original guidance.
That's right.
Good, okay.
Lynn, quick question. Is this something that could be taped? Does he allow it to be taped so that it can be shared with PTOs?
That's a good question, and I'll have Leah reach out to his team to see if that's possible. I wouldn't see why not, because he's very open about it.
Yeah, and we are also in the age of Zoom. Is that something that would be an option? I'm not sure what facility we have that could do the Zoom meeting of that size, but
Probably, maybe at the high school. I mean, that's we would get a lot more traction if people could sign in on Zoom.
yeah, all right. Good.
But we will ask both of those questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Second.
One comment, if we can save one of the 55 individuals who is currently a client of app that live in Guilford, this will have been worth it.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, good.
Thank you all.
All right, let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room? Aye. That motion carried.
Yeah, more to the point, the next 55 people that are on the
Exactly.
line.
Number 56.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in a little bit.
Thanks, Lynn.
Good.
Yep.
All right, okay. Rapid fire, appointments and resignations. Act on a recommendation, reappointment of Amanda Popplewell to the Board of Assessment Appeals for a term to expire on February 1, 2026. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
A
Second
second.
for the Board of Assessment Appeals. Thank you.
Having served on that?
No, I didn't, sir, but that's a tough job, and I appreciate it.
That's right. All right, let me try your mind, the motion and second, let me try your minds, all in favor?
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
2, act on reappointment of Jim Goodrich to the Board of Assessment Appeals for a term to expire February 1, 2026. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion and I'll make sure he reports his attendance for the land use thing.
Yeah, I'll second it with the caveat.
Caveat.
Yeah.
Let me try your minds, Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Item 3, act on a recommendation to appoint Roger Joyce to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term to begin March 1, 2024, expiring February 28, 2028. Is there a motion?
I'd like to move that one.
I'll second that, if I can do so. Anyone else can second as well?
Yeah, I would, I'll third it.
Let me try your minds, Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye. 12.4, act on a recommendation to reappoint Laura Hartman to the Park and Rec Commission for a new term to expire February 28, 2028. Is there a motion?
I'll move it also.
Second?
I'll second.
Second.
Gladly.
Great. Let me try your minds, Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. 12.5, act on a recommendation to reappoint Robert Harrington to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a new term to expire on February 28, 2028. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
And a second?
Second.
Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
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 That motion carried. 6, act on a recommendation to reappoint Sarah Torf to the Conservation Commission and Tree Advisory Board for a new term to expire February 28, 2028. I'd like to make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room? Aye. That motion carries unanimously. Item 7, act on a recommendation to move Tom McCabe from alternate to regular member on the Historic District Commission for a term to expire on January 31st, 2029. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Second, let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. I would ask that we table item 8 until such time as I have a chance to discuss that further. Is there a motion to table, the one for Patricia
I'll move.
Mears?
Second.
Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. 9, act on a recommendation to appoint Todd Fanciullo as an alternate to the Historic District Commission to fill a vacancy for a term to expire on January 31st, 2027. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make that motion, please. So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second. Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Thank you. And I will be back for our February meeting with something on 8. 13, request for use of town property, act on a request from the Sarah Foundation to place a sign on green advertising its stand up for Sarah comedy event taking place February 2nd, 2023. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. 13.2, act on a request from the Leeds Island Garden Club to use the green and to place a sign on the green advertising its annual plant sale taking place May 11, 2024, rain date 5/12, sign placement 4/27 to 5/11. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Second, let me try your minds. Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Committee reports. Sandy, anything?
No, our Affordable Housing Committee meets next week.
Great. Public Works report, anything? No. Building report? No. Correspondence from Jeff Hocking. Any comments or questions?
Had a chance to read it. Thanks for everyone who submits what they want to have heard.
Yep, good. All right, 16, old business. 17, new business. 18, public forum. Anyone wishing to address the board in public forum? Hearing none, I think 19 is obviated, is not necessary, is not required. It's placeholder. Had asked Tracy to put something there in the event we had something coming, so with there no further business to conduct, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second?
Second, I have a comment. I'm gonna come down now for the other meeting, but
You
just
got
start it
See
whenever. I'll be there
You got
as
it.
soon as I can. Okay.
See you in a
Be
few.
careful.
Yeah,
Yes, I will.
About a little after 11, so I'll try and get the ones I can and then I'll be able to zoom in and out.
Okay.
Yeah.